So the next thing we're going to talk about is how to work with smudging your paper when you do smudge your paper, because when you're working with graphite, it's inevitable that it's going to happen at some point. There are a bunch of ways that you can prevent the smudging from happening, and then there are a bunch of ways that you can recover from a smudge when it does happen. So the first thing is that I think of it like a forest fire. If you get a little spark, you want to put that out before the whole forest catches fire. So if you get a little smudge, you want to get rid of that smudge before it smudges elsewhere on your page. The first thing is that I'm always going to be working from left to right because I'm right-handed. So I use my dominant hand to draw, and I'm going to draw here on the left side first and work this way. Now, sometimes when I'm doing a subject like this, I'm not going to start with the cast shadow here and then move this way. I'm actually going to start with the object and then put in the cast shadow. So there would be times that I would want to rest my hand right where the object is, and there's some things that you can do to prevent smudging or to clean up. So the first thing, after you decide which way you're going to be working, is that you can actually gummy erase yourself. So if you get a little bit of smudging that happens on the page, it's also usually going to happen on your hand. And the reason is that we have oils on our skin that actually pick up the graphite and move it around. So even if you've just washed your hands, you're going to be able to smudge. The first thing I want to do is to prevent that from smudging again. So I'm either going to take my gummy eraser and clean myself up, or sometimes I like to keep Huggies in the studio too. If I'm working with kids teaching a lesson, if I send them to the bathroom, a lot of times that will cut out 10 minutes of their lesson just because they get distracted. So if I keep some sort of handy wipe on hand, then I can just pull one of those out and wipe my hand. You want to keep in mind that if your hands are wet, you don't want to set them back down on the paper, because the paper, when it gets moist, it's going to change its reaction to the graphite. So anytime you spill anything on your paper, you want to just start over. So make sure when you use the Huggies or the handy wipes that you let your hands dry fully before you go back to drawing. The next thing is that you really want to erase everything that you can that's smudged before you continue drawing. So for that, I usually use the kneaded eraser. This time I'm using the Prismacolor kneaded eraser again. And I'm going to go ahead and erase that smudge. Remember, with the gummy eraser, with smudges, you can drag it. With other types of things that you're trying to clean up, you don't want to drag it, you're just going to dab the eraser. But for smudges, you can definitely clean it up by dragging that gummy eraser. The one thing to keep in mind is that when you're dragging a gummy eraser on any piece of paper, you want to start from the centermost point and move your way outside, because if you go from the outside in, you're liable to crumple up your paper, and then you're going to want to start over also. Okay, so an additional thing that you can do in order to prevent smudges is that since I am right-handed, if I am going to be drawing on the left side, and if I'm at a spot where maybe I would be more comfortable resting my hand where part of the drawing is that's already completed, I'm going to, instead of keeping my paper right side up, I'm going to rotate my page. No one ever said you had to draw right side up. And then I can draw, and then you can see my hand has really clear access away from the object so that I'm not going to smudge. You'll want to make sure to turn your page back around so that you can see the object and the changes that you've made right side up. But I usually rotate my page in all different directions whenever I'm drawing. Sometimes I do that just to make it more comfortable, and sometimes I do it to prevent myself from smudging. Another tool that you can use to prevent smudging in that same way, so say I'm still wanting to work on the cast shadow, the left side, I can take this piece of photo paper, and if you have old photos at home that you would normally just throw away, you can use old photos. I didn't have any of those, so I just went to the office supply store and bought blank pieces that you can put in your home computer printer. These are by Kodak. And I really just went for the size. I think this one might be, I don't remember, maybe 5x7. And what you can do is you can put that photo paper down on the page, and then you can rest your hand on the photo paper, and then you can go ahead and start shading so that you're not going to be smudging by moving your hand over the object that you've already drawn. The trick with this is that you don't want to put the photo paper down and then put pressure on it and move it. That would create smudges also. But as long as you just set it down gently and then pick it up without sliding it, you're going to see that none of the graphite sticks to the photo paper. Once you've used a piece of photo paper for maybe, I don't know, 10 different drawings, or drawings that are really dark, sometimes you'll notice that you get little marks on the photo paper, and then you'll want to keep another few on hand so that you can swap that one out. The last thing that you can do in order to work on a drawing without creating smudges is that you can use something that's called a drawing bridge. I don't actually have one of those in my own home studio because I find that I'm just particular enough about where my placement of my hand is so that I don't need one. But sometimes I have students who wind up using an object like this, and it's the same idea as the photo paper. So if you don't have photo paper on hand, but you did buy one of those dusting brushes, you could set that down and rest your hand on the dusting brush and have access to a part of the drawing. Another thing you could do is use a ruler. I find that those are a little bit more narrow, so it's a little bit riskier. But I've even had students who have used, I think I had a student who used a heart that was the plastic bottom of a Valentine's Day candy box, and he was able to just set his hand right in that, and it slid. It didn't collect anything, just like the photo paper, because it was a shiny surface, and that prevented any smudges from happening. So those are all great tips to keep your work preserved as you continue to work on it, and I hope that helps you out. Thank you all so much for watching. More videos are coming soon, so if you wish to subscribe to my channel, go ahead and do that. And also you can check out my website, lzmstudio.com.